Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
It is the March 6th edition of Fitchburg Parks Commission. We'll call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock on the dot. First order of business is approval of the February minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
A motion.
Motion to approve.
A second it.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All right, hearing no comments. All in favor of approving February minutes, say aye.
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 All right, unanimously approved. Do we have any appearances, public appearances for non-agenda items? Seeing nobody in the audience and nobody online, we will assume there are none. Item number 4, review and approve the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion.
I'll motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, agenda item 5A, Highfield Reserve Castlebar Park Plan Concept. Scott, would you like to give us a summary?
I can do that, Chris. Thank you. This is, they're beginning to start to develop the Highfield Reserve development, and you, to orientate yourself, you can see where McGaw Park is to the northeast. This is part of the Fahey Fields development. And you may, I believe it was a couple months ago, we approved the names of the parks within this development. And the group is interested in developing the Castlebar Park, which you can see on the map. I've got my cursor on it. This is the proposed park plan that they've submitted. And what we're looking to do is do the same process that we did with the Crescent Crossing development, where the group, they'll publicly bid it, basically follow our bidding requirements and bid procedures, get bids. We'll then, depending on how much it will cost, it will call down on their line of credit. But then what we'll do is if you remember, we did an amendment to the developers agreement at Crescent Crossing to include this. So we would do the same mechanical thing for this development in Highfield. So what they're really looking for is comments from the Park Commission, and then they'll make those adjustments. And then when it comes back again, they'll have those on the park plan. A couple things of note which have been discussed is you can see that there's a fence, an exterior fence around the playground area, and I did ask them about that, and their response was due to the proximity to the streets, that this would be a good a safety feature, which I agree with. They also, which is kind of different, you can see the bollards, the light bollards along the sidewalk there, which really a lower, bollard. They are, dark sky compliant. But this would add a kind of an enclosure or kind of a closure type of feature for the area. So those, and I tell you too, this is similar to the pocket park, if you would, at Crescent Crossing, which really turned out nice. So they're looking for thoughts from the Park Commission on this.
Scott, what is the budget on this?
Well, actually, for the whole development, they have about $1 million, Heidi, in parkland dedication fees and fee in lieu of parkland dedication. I would suspect that this, I don't know if this would reach, 150, possibly, as part of it. But what they do is they have a line of credit, so whatever they end up paying for this would reduce the line of credit through their park improvement fees.
Gotcha. I think it's adorable. I think it's nice to have a little park like this that isn't overly cluttered. I really like the design.
Yeah. Is there lights there then? Is that why they needed the bollards?
Well,
there are no lights,
I would suspect there's going to be street lighting there, Sam. But I think the bollards, what it really does is it kind of illuminates the light and just kind of creates another layer of safety, but just kind of delineating the park space, which I think is really, really pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a neat design.
One thing I do like are some of the play elements, like the log climbers and the boulder climbers. They're similar to the Nature Nook at Birmingham Park, in more of a natural kind of play area versus a real constructed piece, which I think adds to the park features, and it feels more natural. I like that a lot.
I have a couple thoughts I could add as well. I also like the log climbers and the boulder climbers. I think it's moving into some diversifying our play equipment a little bit. Some things we don't see as often. I think I personally would like to see the slide in swings maybe become something else more in line with that theme, something that fit in with that nature play aesthetic, that sort of more naturalized look. The bright and colorful equipment kind of is jarring compared to that different type of play space. So I would maybe encourage them to look at maybe some alternatives. I understand the thought with the fence about preventing, some little tykes from running out into the street. So I think there's some merit to that, but one downside I think is that having the play area fenced in is it kind of eliminates some flexibility with kids to run around into the lawn, into the play area, and kind of, run amok like you would kind of want them to do in a park. So maybe that fence, maybe it would be worth paring back and having it only on two sides, the sides that border the street. I'm not sure. I'm not saying that's a must have for us to approve the plan, but I think it's something worth considering. And then if it were to enclose the whole area, I think maybe squaring out the edges so that it's easier for maintenance, clean mow lines, and then these fences are built in straight 4-foot to 6-foot panels, so a rounded corner is going to look fairly segmented and a little awkward. So I think straightening it out in a little bit more linear fashion might be more appealing.
I will share that with them.
All right. Heidi, your hand is up.
I just had one more comment. I wanted to concur with what Chris said. I like the idea of removing the slide and putting something a bit more rustic in there. I don't know whether that would be a small ropes course or whatever, but something that sort of goes more along with the design, which is completely different than, I believe, any other park we have. So I think it's unique, and it's worth venturing into that. I also agree on the fence. To me, the fence just kind of looks like it's right out in the middle of nowhere. So I would agree with taking that down and, maybe, as Chris said, having something closer to the road may not be a bad idea, but the fence just kind of seems to, okay, let's put it here. So I would agree with maybe removing that fence as well. Thank you.
Great.
All right. Hearing all that, do we have a motion to approve the park concept plan, taking into account the feedback from the Park Commission? Or something to that effect, if you would like to
Motion
word
to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 5B, Resolution R 2825, amending the 2024 general fund budget of various parks art items. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
And a second.
I'll second it.
All right, and any discussion? Scott, do you want to?
Yes, I come before the Park Commission with a red face and a little egg on my face. The operating budget did go over budget around $20,000, and the operating budget for the parks is about $400,000. So a couple of the reasons for the overage you can see in account 290, which is our contractual services. That was about $12,575 over. We did have an outbreak. There's no excuse for being over budget, but just a little bit of background on it. We did have an outbreak of thistle, so we wanted to make sure that we eradicated that Canada thistle. You can see in the 360 account, building repairs and maintenance. And now this is an account that actually also has our paper products for the park shelters, and that was about $10,000 over. So we did have some additional funds in there. So at the end of the day, we had $6,000 over in that budget. We also had some repairs which you're going to have on occasion, and it's hard to speculate or anticipate those. The other big one was the shelter utilities. That was $15,000 over, and that I think too is kind of a byproduct of a lot of shelter use and park use. So we came up with a total of $36,000 over budget. But what they did do is we kind of moved some dollars around within the parks budget because some of the line items were under budget. And what was really awful good is you can see shelter fee collection. So this is the $20,000 that we were actually over budget. We brought in about $90,000 in park shelter rental fees and ball diamond rental fees. So I really like the idea of beginning to start to go towards those fees somehow getting back to the park operational budget. Again, it's no excuse for being over budget, but it kind of maybe is a little bit of a prelude to, in order to keep our budgets down, if we can receive credit for those fees that are collected. And actually another item that was over budget was a chlorine for the splash pad, about $1,500. So we did have to do a budget amendment. I provided a memo, and this does need to go to the council. So that's a little bit of information about that.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Any questions or comments on R 2825?
I just have a comment and then a question. And I understand everything with the economy and inflation, everything is so much more expensive than what it used to be. So I'm not going to dog you guys on going over that amount, which, in the size of the budget really isn't that excruciating an amount. But I'm wondering if throughout the year, do you guys, quarterly, semi-annually, whatever, do you sort of sit down and go over the numbers and say, okay, where are we at? And, okay, we're way over here, can we cut somewhere else? I'm assuming you guys do something like that?
Well, and we certainly will keep a closer eye on it, Heidi, that's for sure. You know, and it gets to the point too where if you remember, we had a big, you know, it was really a good growing season for the summer, so our contractual services. So, you know, we typically, our budget is really, I think, at a good spot where, you know, we have it's lean enough. But certainly to your point, you know, I don't think we're going to get into turning off the electricity on the shelters or, you know, not putting toilet paper and things in there. But there's, you know, I don't know how much discretionary spending there is in there, Heidi. But certainly at the end of the year, there might be some things that we'll just hold off in purchasing until, you know, the following year. But I've always been, you know, if it's broke, we're going to we'll get it fixed instead of not fixing it. But like I say, we certainly were over budget, and I appreciate your comment in the scheme of things. But really, I'm thankful that, you know, the 20,000 from the, you know, shelter fee collections can offset the 15,000 that we were over in utilities, and we're, you know, it's at a wash. So, but certainly, yes, we need to keep a closer eye on it and not go over budget.
Hey, Scott, and the large increase in the shelter utilities, should we look at increasing the shelter fees to sort of cover that better? Because that looks like a pretty big number.
We did increase them, Sam.
More, okay, so to cover that for moving forward.
Yeah,
all right.
Well, we're kind of thinking, because all the departments were over, we're thinking there might have been a rate increase in there somewhere along the way.
Seems like a big number.
Yes, it is.
Well, and if I may just say too, with regards to utilities, at my job, I take care of the finances, and I know that our utilities are up about 30% over last year. And that's just a reality, unfortunately.
Well, we'll certainly take that into account when we, you know, look at the 2026 operational budget. We'll kind of see where we're at. So, but one nice thing is we do, you know, we do collect some dollars for the electrical services, which is good.
That was going to be my only question, Scott, was if we need to look at the budget moving forward to account for, because I'm certain that utilities won't go down.
No.
All right. Well, if there are no other comments, we've had a motion and a second. All in approval say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right. On to communication item. Oh, wait. Sorry, I skipped too far.
Yep.
Item 6, discussion/action items. 6A is a discussion item. That's the capital improvement plan. Scott, take us away.
This is a prelude to our, what the Park Commission will have to do is make a recommendation in April to the Finance Department for the CIP. So it's kind of a prelude to that discussion. What I wanted to do, and I'll share a couple thoughts, and I'm looking for some feedback from the Park Commission, and certainly after the meeting, if you have additional thoughts or ideas, you know, be sure to let me know, and then we can make sure that I incorporate it into the final, you know, the final proposal that you can take a look at next month. But what I did is part of the background information, if you remember, and I also wanted to let you know that I've got copies of the Park and Open Space Plan. If you want a copy, let me know, and I can get you a copy of it. But I looked at the plan, and if you recall, there were some items within the, I think it's what is it? The action item, the action items part of our CIP, and these are the green items that are within the next 1 to 3 years that we're looking to take a look at. And I kind of listed them here is develop a city park and open space classification and standards study. And I think the bullet 1 and bullet 2 kind of mirror one another, where we, take a comprehensive look at the parkland dedication fee in lieu of park impact fees. I will share with you that I am of the understanding that the Economic Development Group or the Finance Committee, they have an intern who is going to be working this summer, and I think this is one of the initiatives that they're going to undertake. So there may be some results from that that we can incorporate. And if anything else, I don't know if we need to put anything in the CIP, but just I wanted to make sure that we didn't forget about the items listed in the Park and Open Space Plan. The third bullet is implementation of Phase 1 of North Fish Hatchery Road, which we're doing. Tree growing incubators, which when we look at our CIP, that's in there for 2026. Evaluating opportunities to fill park and rec gaps. And I think that, that might be a whole comprehensive look at how we provide park services within the community. And maybe it's a case of dividing the community into sections or areas, because I think certainly there's adequate park facilities in some sections and maybe not adequate park facilities in others, and that could really kind of help drive the park commission on whether you want to take parkland or park improvement, depending on where the development is and those kinds of things. Explore the third-party nonprofit partnership, and I know Dave Herbst is really beginning to start to work on that, and I can report too that Sam and Anna and Sue Easterday and Dave Herbst, they're really beginning to start to get a volunteer group together to begin to start to do some of this. It might be a lot of woods restoration, but beginning to start to have a group that could be, Friends of the Fitchburg Parks hands-on kind of volunteer group. So that's really some good work there. Well, and then actually too, Jake Johnson with the Dog Park Advocate. So that partnership is beginning to start to formalize. And then the Urban Forestry Strategic Management Plan, which actually we did get proposals, and that I'm going to get that referred out at the next council meeting, so that'll come back to the Park Commission in April. We received 3 proposals, and we've got 1 company that we're going to recommend. And Anna did write and receive a DNR grant for that project. So the Forestry Division is really moving forward, which is great. So I just wanted to kind of, give you, just so we keep that in our thoughts. But again, this is the part of the Park and Open Space Plan that identifies those 1 to 3 year type of projects. Another one too, which is in here, is the evaluation of our current park master plans for maybe our community parks, to begin to maybe take a look at those to see if there's some updating that can be done with those plans. Well, here that's this one. Develop 5-year master plan priority list, where we might update some master plans, which potentially could be done internally with staff. Here's a strategic management plan, which is going to be forthcoming. Tree incubators, which I think is in 2026 CIP. Rec programs at the hub. That's going to be the next thing that we're really going to have to begin to start to do. The hub is going to be built, this fall, so we really need to begin to start to determine the programming use of that facility. And again, that nonprofit idea. Here is the summary of the different parks and the number of each of the amenities within the park system. You can see the parcel, the park acreage for the active parks, the number of half basketball, drinking fountains, picnic tables, and all of those kinds of things. And then what I did as part of that exercise was I put a value on it, a replacement value, and a life expectancy And at the end of the day, what I came up with is, if you look at this right here, the value of all the amenities within the park system is a little bit over $21 million. And in order to get all of those amenities replaced on a 20 or 30 or 50-year cycle for life expectancy, we would need an annual allocation of $490,000, which is a huge number. And then if you look a little bit further down, we've got 38 miles of paved path, and it costs about $130,000 a year to redo the path. So if you do a mile a year, I don't know if they're going to last 38 years. It's an additional $130,000. So I think I wanted to, and I think this was kind of your big question at one point, Sam, is what, and I see this, a dollar amount that we could include when we get to 6259. That's kind of our park improvement CIP, and I think we get around $60,000 or $65,000 a year in there. So that might be an opportunity to begin to start to maybe add some additional dollars. But that's what I'm really looking for some feedback on. Certainly I think playgrounds need to be in that rotation. What we are finding too, like the open air shelters, are the gazebos. We probably won't be replacing those, but we'll have to paint them periodically. And what I'm learning too, I'm kind of working with Misty at the finance to determine where these things should actually go. CIP projects need to be $10,000 or more, but what we're finding is the gazebos are about $4,000 to paint. So that might be something that would be kicked to the operational budget that we would include in there. And actually the woods management plans, when we begin to start to get in there, that might be more of an operational budget that would be added to our prairies or whatever it might be. So I'm really trying to, get a grasp of it and see if you guys have any thoughts or ideas. But I think at the end of the day, this is good, solid information and can help us kind of decide. Well, and then the council too, to begin to start to make some decisions on dollars to replace these amenities. So, and I don't know if there's any questions on that. I guess I wanted to provide that as, like I say, as kind of a prelude to our discussion next month. And certainly along the way, if you would be kind enough to send me thoughts or ideas on what you would think would be appropriate and make sense and make logic to begin to start to work on getting those things included in the budget. So then what I'd like to do, if there isn't any questions, is kind of roll through the current CIPs. We have Moraine Edge Park, but again, that's pushed off to 2034, so we won't really be doing much with that. 6259, this is the one where I think, because when we did this originally, we talked about playground equipment and ball fields and all of those kinds of things. So I think this CIP needs to be rethought through. And then you can see on the bottom here, gazebo paint, chicory metal gazebo paint, that it's not costing $10,000. It's more like $4 or so. So we'll take it out of this, but that might be something that would be transferred to the operating budget. One thing that I do want to make you aware of, which I suspect would probably end up being a budget amendment, is with Southdale, with the interest from the council and the mayor to do some work in Southdale, we moved chicory metal playground replacement to a future year, and we actually added $60,000 to the Southdale Park playground project, and actually within the CIP for Southdale there's $50,000, so we're going to have Actually, the RFP is out right now, and that'll be, or we actually received proposals, so we'll be getting that in front of the Park Commission real quickly. So that's kind of, and this is really where I see, you know, the information that we have from the grid to begin to start to incorporate categories, if you would, into the CIP. And then, you know, let me see. See, we get, and it goes up annually every year. So currently we get 62, then 63, then 64. So the idea might be that, you know, maybe we find a couple different things that we want to add to it, and we end up going at 100 a year, just to begin to start to work on that. And then here's all the projects that are kind of in the queue. The Hugo Jamestown water fountain, that's done. Southdale Park ID sign is done. Belmar water fountain is done. Quarry Ridge paint is done. Seminole Glen is done. Path lighting's done. We haven't done anything with the volleyball posts, so we still got to work on that. Arrowhead playground is done. Burn gazebo's done, and Hillside basketball hoop is done. So we're doing a good job on getting those things completed. Tennis courts.
Before you go on to the next one, Scott, we got a couple questions.
Sure.
Chris, what's your question if you want to go first?
Sure. Sorry to get ahead of you, Heidi. I think you're going up first. So just a note I put in the chat. Nothing to discuss, but this is in regards to generation of ideas. And Scott and Commission, I'll just let you read that later. I'll copy it. So the idea of a food forest, but
love the idea of a food forest, by the way. Heidi, what did you have?
Well, my question was, Scott, I love what you've put together. I mean, this is a very valuable asset with everything that we have in the parks and everything that you anticipate will be cost in the future. My question regarding that is that just to maintain, or will that also include the improvements to the parks that the mayor had indicated that she would like us to do, the inclusivity and all of that to the parks?
Well, these dollars wouldn't be for maintenance, Heidi. These would be for replacement. So what I've done is I've put a replacement cycle, a life expectancy on the piece of equipment, and then that's how we would kind of figure out how each thing would be replaced. If we do maintenance, then we would need to put that in the operating budget. You know, and again, it's just kind of an exercise to get a scope of the amenities that we have out in the park system, and then just really it helps us as a park commission, you know, decide when we're looking at park facilities, you know, what are we going to include in them, with the idea that, you know what, eventually they need to be replaced. And also the exercise of the park improvement fees and those kinds of things. If there's a way that we can somehow steer those dollars into a replacement fund or some other, you know, strategy to try and leverage some of those dollars differently. And you know, truth be told, you know, I think we're pretty good with parkland and park facilities. There might be some deficiencies, so which I think, you know, over the last 25, 30 years, we've done a good job of getting the space. Now it might be time to, you know, start to think about how are we going to maintain them and replace them and those kinds of things. And again, I think we may, you know, at some point need to put a CIP budget item in there to get some help or something to come in and, you know, and help us with that analysis and determine how we might be able to get it done. Lot of food for thought there. Tennis courts. It looks like 2026. We're in the process of doing Chicory Meadow this year. 2026 will be Swan Creek. And then after that, it's going to be basically replacement. And they are, what we're doing is we're putting dollars in annually to get us to the dollar amount that we would need when it's time to be replaced. So that's a good method there. Large park shelters. Again, what they do is they put in a dollar amount, and this is another item that I want to talk to Misty about. I don't see, the Greenfield shelters and the McGaw shelters, and I don't see us raising. I see us doing what we did at Tower Hill, where you go in, and we did at McGaw also, where you go in and kind of do a renovation of the existing shelter. And so I'm thinking that, an idea of having dollars set aside to, at times do a makeover of our 8 or 9 shelters that we have out in the park system. And then, I know McKee Farms Park is actually, the park master plan calls for a shelter bathroom on the south end. So that might be a different account. But this is one that we want to, taking into account the information that we have with the inventory and what it costs and all of those, to begin to maybe retool some of these CIPs to start to work towards and again, we're doing good. We get $50,000 a year in this, so it might be a change of the definition of what you can use the money for, or those kinds of things. New development. This, is continuing. We've got some projects in the queue, and I do see, which is actually nice, we've got a break from 26, 27, and 28, so, which is nice, because we've got a lot of park projects that we are currently in the hopper and like to get them completed before we go on to the next one, if you would. So that's development. Here's this one was removed, so I don't know why that's in there. The hub, like I say, is still in there. Community travel beds, which I spoke of, that's 2026. So we'll look to do that in 2026. Kids Crossing, we are currently working on an RFP for professional services to get out to get a company or a group to come in and help us put all the information together, the bid documents together, and all of that to get that bid hopefully this year, and then we'll be able to hopefully come spring be ready to go and get that replaced. Kids Crossing. Egg Museum, that's in the future. So that's kind of the CIPs, if you would. And like I say, I'm really interested in thoughts. Just send them to me. Not the whole group. Just some thoughts and ideas on what you might think. And then, like I say, I'm going to be working with Missy in the finance department to see how she would recommend getting this stuff restructured and those kinds of things. So kind of a reboot, if you would. So pretty exciting, actually. So I think that's all I have for that, unless there's other questions or thoughts. And I'll look forward to getting your thoughts.
All right. Any other questions or comments on 6A? All right. Item
The
6.
only other thing, and I'll just sorry, this is Chris. The only other idea that I had was potentially working with third party, being the ho-chunk, and maybe having an indigenous garden kind of as a way of showing traditional planting methods alongside, if there's this new idea of an ag museum that we can look back to
Yes.
other traditional ways of agriculture.
Very good. A couple things that I failed to mention, the Nine Springs Golf Course. We used to have a CIP for that, and I'm looking to put a CIP together for the golf course. The main thing I'm looking for is expansion of the existing storage shed to get some of that equipment inside, along with they have some bridges and those kinds of things. So I'll be looking to put together a CIP for that. Also, our friends at Corp at Quarry Ridge, they're looking to do some improvements at Quarry Ridge, and one of the big improvements is they're looking to create a progressive learning area, which would be on the flat ground and then have a couple different runs. They're definitely interested in being a partner, but we're also looking at potentially ways to expand the parking facility at Quarry Ridge. It's really a heavily used facility, and at times they're parking on is that Fitchburg Road, and so we're looking to put a CIP proposal together for that. Sorry about that.
All right. Item 6B, celebrating our parks summer 2025.
And I did have a conversation with the mayor today, and she, which I truly appreciate, is she's wanting staff to get out and promote the different parks we have within the community. And I hopefully convinced her that, you know, it in order to put on a park activity at a community park takes a lot of staff time. So what I'm thinking is we could, in theory, put together a calendar of events that are happening within the parks, the concerts, those kinds of things. We could certainly, there's a lot of park projects that are going to be going on within the city this summer. So the idea of going out and taking pictures and making progress reports and get that out through all of our social media platforms. And I think at the end of the day, the mayor is really encouraging us to get out there and kind of talk up the parks and the projects and the things that are going on within the park system. And certainly a lot of volunteer activities, Arbor Day activities, all of those kinds of things. So, and I guess the mayor was kind of offering an invitation to the park commission members if they're interested in putting on a Easter egg hunt at McGaw. You could pick up the torch but so that I try to make fun of things, but I expressed to the mayor that with capacity we're just kind of getting what we can get done, but certainly the idea of promoting the parks and the thing, and what we're working on is actually the mayor put $1,000 in the budget, so we're looking at a movie night. We're thinking at Hugo Jamestown Park as that event, but really trying to put together a calendar, a monthly calendar with events that are happening within the park system. And I'd be interested in any other thoughts or ideas. I think it's really a push to get it out on the social media platforms and promote what we're doing out there.
Yeah, I think a great place to start is just a simple calendar of events that shows, what's happening outside in the parks throughout the summer, and it could be a simple graphic, that then you can just push out and share through social media. You can create posters, put them in park shelters, and just have it front and center where people can just be aware of everything. Because when the summer's here, people are looking for fun, free things to go do outside, and parks are a great place for them to do those things.
And that's easy, right? We're not. It's just a matter of promoting them, which we don't do. So that'd be a good step.
Yeah.
And you can certainly send me any thoughts that you may have after the meeting.
All right. Moving on, communication items. Scott, you want to run us down the list? I'll just add here at the beginning, we do have citizen registration form, Patrick Cheney, registering in opposition to item 7E. This is not an action item, it's just a communication item, but that is, so for the record, I'll give you the sheet later.
For 7B, you said, Chris?
7E.
7E. Okay. Very good. We'll record it. So the The Hatchery Hill grading project is actually, that's going to be happening this spring and this summer. So that's in the hopper. Terravesa is on hold at this point. Kyle Steiger Greenway, comprehensive park inventory, hub, Stoner Prairie Park, that'll be built this year. Tower Hill shelter renovations, McKee Park shelter siding, McGaw pickleball courts, Southdale Park plan. So we'll have the playground will be soon. We're actually doing a request for proposal for professional services to help us with putting together the design for the bathhouse, the spray amenity, and the shelter to hopefully maybe get that bid, the same way we did these other ones in the fall, get them awarded so that they're first thing in the spring ready to go. 2025 projects, Chicory Meadow tennis courts, we've got Fred who's working on that, so that'll be bid shortly here. Gazebo paint, playground, Southdale Park, Rimrock Playground, that's another playground we'll be doing. Open air shelter, inclusive playground, that's on the docket for this year. Hartung Park plan, that one is kind of on the fast track. I don't know if you know where Hartung is, and there's people that are going to be living out there soon, so I'm anticipating that I might have a park plan to you in April, and we're going to move as quickly as we can to try to get something built there this year for Hartung. Kids Crossing, I spoke about that, and then that's kind of a prelude to the Kids Crossing installation in 2026. Others, forestry management plan, woodlot management policy. We're looking at doing some expansion of soccer fields at McKee in the tall grass area to the east. If you're familiar with McKee, we have the soccer fields currently, and then there's a tall grass area to the east. The idea of potentially developing some additional soccer fields there. And what we'd really love to do is be able to rotate fields seasonally, because we have a lot of soccer going on, and the ones at McKee are basically April to November, and they just really get used a lot. Quarry Ridge parking lot, and park naming policy. Hartung, Highfield Reserve. Yep, there's quite a list there. And then we move on to the Sue wanted me to plug again the Dane County native planting project for both McGaw and Wildwood South. So I'm doing that there. And then just an update that the council did approve Tower Hill with, and actually what they did is they included all the deducts in the project, which was great. McKee Farms Park was approved, the siding. McGaw was approved with the shade structures, not the lights. Fitchburg Forestry Management Plan update was also approved. Then we've got, so that's, any questions on that?
Seeing none, we have the staff reports and updates. Any questions on any of those?
And if I might, again, I've got these park and open space plans. If you want one, just let me know, and I'll be sure to get one to you.
Very good. Any future agenda items?
I know in April we'll have the spring tree planting. Will be in April, along with the strategic management forestry plan, and the CIP will be 3 items for sure that we'll have on the April agenda.
And I think, let's see, we're a few months out yet, but eventually we may want to revisit approaching a capstone, landscape architecture capstone project again, since we weren't selected this year, but we may very well in the future. And going through the future projects that you did earlier today, I have some thoughts on what might be another different type of one that we can look at. So I'll talk to you about that later.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
All right, announcements. Our next two meetings are April 3rd and May 1st. I can't believe that we are going to be in spring and summer already, but we are. And with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second. And
All in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned at 6:49. Thank you, everybody.